Ball Playoff semifinal at the 86th Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, a rival news conference featuring Cincinnati head coach Lou Fickell of the number 4 Bearcats. For the media attending, please use the raise your hand function to indicate you want to ask a question. When you're called on for your question, please state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Coach Fickell, while we get your questions ready, can you talk about the excitement around your program leading up to your arrival here in North Texas?
Well, yeah, it's been an incredibly exciting ride. I think this whole season, coming into it with really high expectations, a little bit different than kind of the platform that we've been in before. Obviously, our opponents are used to it, quite used to it. Obviously, it was a little bit different for us, just kind of with some of that talk going into the year based on what happened last year. And our guys did a phenomenal job. They kind of rode a roller coaster of a little bit of ups and downs, not as much of the downs because obviously we found a way to win every football game. But we had to go through a period of time there where we had to figure out who we were and what we really wanted to be, and quit trying to be something that somebody else wanted us to be. And I think we kind of got into that groove and really had a chance to kind of enjoy the last few weeks of the season playing better football and winning a championship. And now we're trying to find that balance between really enjoying what these guys have created. I say these guys, these 30-some seniors and a lot of other guys and staff members, what they've created. It's really tough, trying to figure out where that balance is. I want them all to enjoy it. I want to enjoy it. But we also know this is an opportunity that doesn't come around every year. And we want to take advantage of that opportunity by doing everything we can and making sure this is about a business. This is about a football game, first and foremost.
Hey, Coach, your first question is going to come from Gary Miller from WKRC-TV. Gary, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Coach. Just describe how big a weapon Alec Pierce is and how you've seen the development, the rapport, the chemistry between he and Desmond as the years gone on.
Well, Gary, you say about his development. I think 3 years ago, going into our bowl game, we moved him over to defense and try to make him a linebacker, and so he obviously has gone way beyond what we ever thought probably, and has developed into an incredible wide receiver. I think his connection with Dez, I think really has grown throughout the year. I think early in the year last year, the absence a little bit of Alec Pierce, he had a knee injury right before the season started. I think really kind of hurt Desmond Ridder in a lot of ways because they were just starting to build that chemistry. And really what those guys have done throughout this entire year, I think really has been something that's given us a little bit of a different punch than we've had any of our time in the last 5 years. And I think it's been a different punch for Dez. I mean, just a guy that, he knows he's got an opportunity to those 50-50 balls become a little bit more 60-40, even 70-30, and has done an unbelievable job of creating some true energy for us and giving us a big play weapon on the outside.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Chad Brendel. Chad, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Coach.
You couldn't ask these things back and since. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chad. Go ahead.
Just wondering, what has it been like as a guy that's coached a lot of defense for a long time, having a guy like Ahmad where one side of the field is pretty much shut down, and then knowing coming into this game he's absolutely going to get challenged by Jameson Williams as well?
Well, I think, just kind of going back to just Ahmad in general throughout the entire season, he's done a phenomenal job. And, it's tough sometimes at those positions that, people can, in some ways, go away from you and kind of, I'm not going to say, not take their shots, but, even take their offense in a different direction. I think we saw that a bit this year, and it was frustrating for Ahmad. And I give him a lot of credit that, he didn't, get out of characteristics, start doing things outside of what we expect him to do in order to try to make plays and try to create things, because at times he was left alone. But I would say the maturity of where he's come in the last couple of years has really shown, I think this year in particular, because of that. And then when they do come back at him, it's usually only really big situations and a lot of times in the red zone. And so he's grown up a lot, not just as a football player, but in his whole mindset of how he has to go about the game. But I think the challenge here this week is going to be incredible for him because they're not going to go away from. There's going to be opportunities that, he's going to have one of the best receivers in college football matched up one-on-one, and he's going to be challenged. And for us as a defense as well, we got to be smart too. That we've maybe gotten away with some things all year to be able to leave him alone off the backside. That we also got to be aware that that's not always a win-win in every situation now. So even though he wants and loves the challenge, we've also got to be smart as a whole to make sure we've got some ways to change some things up and not just always stick him on an island, even though we believe he's as good as he really is.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Chris Vanini with The Athletic. Chris, go ahead with your question.
Hey, Luke. Yeah, you guys are about 2 touchdown underdogs. I'm sure you don't actually care about that, but I'm just curious if you feel like you guys need to prove yourselves a little bit at all to maybe part of the country who hasn't watched you as much.
Thanks, Chris. No, I wasn't quite aware exactly where those things are. Usually when you start to see them pop up at the bottom of the ticker, I turn the channel. So it doesn't matter. I mean, we know, we have a good idea. I mean, if you're going to, if you want to have a shot at the title, you got to beat the champs. And, this is what we have. We have a shot to beat the champs. And regardless of, what the line is of any sorts, we've said it all year long that, the best team doesn't always win the game. That's just a reality. The teams that play the best win the football game. And, for us to worry about, what the line is and, us proving ourselves to anybody else, I think the greatest lesson that we learned throughout the stretch of probably the second 2/3 of our season is that we had to stop trying to prove people or live up to what an expectation that they wanted us to be. They wanted us to win this way, and you're favored by this, so you got to do this. And, I think it took a toll on us. And, I think the us getting kind of in our groove down the last 4 games of the season, we kind of put that behind us and said, we just got to be us, regardless of if we're favored or if we're underdogs, and, do what it is that we do, be us, and let's enjoy what it is that we're doing. So I don't know all that. I know that our guys don't feel like they need to prove anything. They just want to compete. And, I think that was the greatest thing I learned about those guys, even last year throughout the midst of all the stuff that we had to go through, is they're competitors. And when the ball goes down, it's all they care about is competing. And if that means they're going to try to prove somebody wrong, they're going to try to prove somebody wrong. But reality is we just want to prove ourselves right.
Next question is going to come from Stephen Hawkins from the Associated Press. Go ahead, Stephen.
Luke, you mentioned in your opening thing about the fact that this is a new experience for your guys. Alabama's obviously experienced that. It's been 3 weeks since it all came out. What have you seen the mentality of your team since that, getting that big moment of, hey, we're there, but how's it changed leading into game week? And how do you feel they're prepared now that we're here at game week?
Well, this is a big week. I think that, back home we tried not to, get too, what I'd say peak too soon and get, too much into Alabama, 3 weeks out. Just because I know how our guys are, and that's what they would rather do, and that's what they would want to do. But then, that week of, sometimes there's a lull in there. So I really sensed the maturity. I did. I mean, I know we've got a lot of older guys, and guys have been through a lot, and I keep hammering away at that. But I did sense a maturity that we put the ball down and competed against each other, and actually had to kind of shut them down from doing it because, in some ways, I'm not saying it got too competitive, but I didn't want it to get to a point where we're getting guys hurt and things like that. So their attitudes have been great. I think they really understand the opportunity they have in front of them. And these situations and these things don't come around every year. And, for me, I want them to enjoy the moment. I want them to enjoy what it is that they've created. But I also, don't need to worry about them, losing focus, because that's who they are. And they're excited about the opportunity. They're excited about the challenge. But I also want them, I'm a little bit the other way, I want them to be able to enjoy a little bit of the surroundings and the things that they've created, all in the midst of making sure that they'll be ready for the 31st.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Zane Phillips. Zane, go ahead with your question.
Happy holidays, Coach Fickell.
Well, thanks, Zane. Appreciate you too.
So there are no secrets at this point in the process, but there's still insights to be gained. Because football is an extremely finite universe, you've played with and coached with and with people who have found their way into the orbit of Coach Saban. One, have you reached out to some of the people that you've either played with or coached with in the past who've also played for and or coached for Coach Saban? And if so, what insights have they given you?
No, not a whole lot, to be honest with you. I mean, I've studied Coach for a long time, and not playing against him, just in general of all the things that they've done and what he's done, whether it was at Michigan State or even obviously at Alabama. So I don't know that there was any other insights. I don't get it. Obviously, Coach Mark D'Antonio is a really close friend of mine, and he coached for Coach Saban for a few years at Michigan State. But it's not like I sat down to try to pick his brain to say, hey, how does he go about a bowl game and this, that, and the other thing. I think, like you said, we've seen a lot of football. You can study every game they've got the whole season. I've watched them play for years and years and years, and you're going to get some things that are a little bit different. But I think sometimes we can do a little bit too much, and then you start to get yourself into that frenzy where you can't really be yourself. You can't focus upon yourself and the things that you got to do, because maybe you're ultimately overly worried about all the different things that you have no idea exactly what it is that they could do, but you're trying to speculate. So, you kind of close down a little bit more and try to assume the things that you would assume, and just know that there are going to be adjustments to be made. Obviously, great coaches are going to do some different things, especially with a 3-week break. And I think one of the big things about this game in general, bowl games in particular, playoffs, more than anyone, I think that the ability to make those adjustments from the first quarter, the first drive or so, into that second half is where, to me, the real part of the game and the kind of the game within the game, I think will be.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Mike Rodak from AL.com. Mike, go ahead with your question.
With COVID having impacted sports as much as it has the last couple of weeks, just where does your team stand as far as any players or coaches that might have been impacted, and just what extra steps are you taking this week in Dallas?
We've all been impacted. We know that it's out there, so that's about all I worry about. We all have our things that we've got to overcome. We've got a lot of other colds. We've got a lot of other flus and things we've missed throughout the season, and so we know we got to be smart about what it is that we're doing, and we're not going to dwell upon those things, because sometimes I think those things hold us up more than anything. They take our energy. They get us into a different frame of mind. We've got a very mature group that understands what they're here to do, and understands that means they're going to have to have some sacrifices that maybe they wouldn't do on a normal, so to speak, 6-day bowl trip or 5-day bowl trip where they could go out and do some things. So we'll be smart about who we're around. We'll be smart about where we're going, but we're going to be us, and we're going to continue to do what it is that we've done all year. And we found a way for it to work for us.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Brandon Seho from WLWT-TV. Brandon, go ahead.
Hey, Luke, I was just curious, what is your message to your team this week when you guys get there and you start to go to work? I know you're very routine driven, want to treat every game the same, but do you want them to embrace that this is, the biggest moment in program history, or you not want them to think about it like that?
No, I think those are some of those things that you understand, and not that we got to get rid of the elephant that's in the room. We all understand the opportunities we have in front of us. That's what I keep harping upon, the mature group that we've got, and I think that group really takes a lot of that off of the coaching staff and me in particular, because the ones you worry about are the younger guys, and that locker room is so well handled with leadership that those guys do a phenomenal job. We've got our messages and the things that we've got to do. In some ways, I've got to make sure they, as well as myself, enjoy this opportunity in this moment. And if you're a competitor and you love the challenges, then you do. Not just because it's the playoffs, but also because you're playing the champs. And so I think there is a balance there. I know for the most part in our group, I think I'll continue to remind them to enjoy the process, to enjoy what it is that they've created. They know what we're here for. They're a very business-like group of guys. I say that more often about the enjoyment of it and recognizing your surroundings because of what they've created, because I need to remind myself as much as anybody. And so I think that they found a way to have a good balance. We just got to continue it throughout this entire week.
Coach, we got 3 questions to close you out. Your next one is going to come from James Hill. James, go ahead with your question.
Coach Fickell, I hope you and the guys and the Bearcats Nation are well. It's James Hill with BNC Sports. You've been a part of 2 national championships before, and now you're back with a quality Bearcats football team. Talk about this Cotton Bowl and how special it can be, and again, going in and getting the job done.
Well, thanks, James. I appreciate it. And this is my actual first Cotton Bowl. I played here, obviously, in the national championship in 2014, but I don't know that it was legitimate, the Cotton Bowl. And obviously, a little bit different. I think you come in for two days or whatever it is. So, I want these guys to experience all. I know that it's going to be a little bit different with some of the things that we are not able to do maybe because of, the situation. But the reality is that, that they've worked their tails off for this. They've put themselves in a position. They've been challenged all year. They stepped up to the challenge all year in everything that we've been asked to do. Like all teams, it's not always the prettiest. But I think the key in all the things that we're doing is we got to not forget who we are. We got to continue to be us. And, that's where we can't allow some of the other stuff to overwhelm us with, all the different things that might be going on. So in some ways, the ability to, to be, not say a little smaller, but a little bit more business-like just because of the surroundings and the situation, I think can also be a good thing for us to allow our guys to, to enjoy each other for the last, what I would say, guaranteed opportunity to do what it is that they love to do together. And, we always say it's the last guaranteed one. You take care of your business, and there can be more. But I think for the most part, our guys understand that. I think last year's bowl game gives us an opportunity to understand the magnitude of the teams that you're playing, the team that we're playing. So I think all those things added together, I think our guys are really excited and embracing the opportunity and the challenge that's ahead of us.
Coach, your next question is going to be a follow-up from Chris Vaniti. Chris, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it earlier, but the idea that if a team can't play due to COVID, they have to forfeit, and it's essentially the same for the championship game. Does that just kind of ramp up how important it is that everybody is careful with what they do?
Everything's important, Chris. I mean, everything that we do is important. Guys get hurt. Guys, we're going to go out there and practice tomorrow, and we're not going to not hit each other and not touch each other because we don't want a guy to hurt his ankle or knee. So I think we all understand the issues that surround us, the magnitude of what opportunities that we have, and I can promise that we're going to not let anything stand in our way.
Coach, your final question is going to come from Ken Capps from the Football Writers Association of America. Ken, go ahead with your question.
Coach, welcome to North Texas. And you do have this great mature group. What do you think they should be telling the younger guys that may get a little wide-eyed and just be happy to be here?
What do we say at times? Close your mouth, open your ears, and follow. I think we might say in a little different way sometimes, but I think that's what they really have told them. And that's kind of been the message throughout the entire season. It's gotten to be even a bigger message as we've had, this opportunity thrown in front of us. And, the good fortunes of not having a ton of young guys that might be starting on offense and defense, but are key members of our team. Those guys have done a phenomenal job at being an example too. And I think that's more than anything is I always say Desmond Ritter and Joel DeBlanco and Majay Sanders and Darian Beavers and Alec. I mean, all those guys, they do a great job of making sure that, they don't just, even though they're gone and out of here, they don't just let those young guys kind of coast off on their own. They know that since the time they've walked in, we've always said that your leadership is measured on how you leave the place. And if you leave it in a better place and the leaders behind you are better than you were, then that means you did a phenomenal job. So they take pride in not just leading themselves and just the guys that, might be the starters around them, but in leading that whole entire locker room. And, I think our younger guys, I'm not saying they always understand to shut their mouth and open their ears and follow, but I think what we've been through this entire season, they've learned in a good way.
Coach, we're actually going to close with a follow-up from Gary Miller. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, welcome to North Texas.
Thanks, Gary.
What was it like, when everybody got back, you saw what happened to the basketball team, you saw what's going on with the NFL, and how relieved were you, or are you, that, you don't have to deal with that today, but you will this week? That moment when everybody got back together, you weren't sure if everyone was going to be cleared or not.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I'm not sure exactly what happened with the basketball team, but I know this, that our guys know what's at stake, and we all know that we have to make sacrifices when things are really important to you. And there's a lot of sacrifices that have been made throughout this entire season. There'll be a lot more sacrifices that had to be made in the last couple weeks, and even this week. And if God forsake, to go forward, there'll be more sacrifices to be made. But we understand that. We don't live our lives in fear, but we also aren't ignorant. So we're smart about what we're doing. We know we've got a task in front of us, and we're not going to allow anything to stand in our way.
Coach, that's going to do it for you today. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
That's it for Coach Fickell today. A full transcript along with video will be distributed via email and posted in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic section of the College Football Playoff Media Portal. To gain access to the portal, send an email to licensing@catapultsport. Thank you for joining us today.